About 7 years ago, I was invited to do something which was really quite exciting. I was invited to Yerushalayim, and you may know that during the 3 weeks, and in fact I think if I recall correctly, during the 9 days, there's something called the annual Kenes, the gathering of women, in Yerushalayim, in which they have speakers and shiurim on the subject of Lashon Hara. Of course, you're talking about the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam, and the Chofetz Chaim writes in Shmiras HaLashon that Lashon Hara was the core, the root cause of the Sinas Chinam between Jews that led to the destruction of the temple. So it's a big thing. 5,000 ladies. I think that is the largest audience, live audience, I've ever spoken to. When I broadcast on the BBC World Service, 156 million people. But somehow or other, when you're just speaking to a microphone, that's not so intimidating. 5,000 women all coming to work on the idea of Shmiras HaLashon, that's really very serious. So I stood up there on the stage. And incidentally, when you're on the stage, you can't see anybody. The best mechitza is the lights that shine on the stage. You can't see anyone. But there was 5,000 ladies there, a huge COVID, and you want to get this right. So I had to say, in all honesty, something a little bit controversial. And I was quoting Ramatzasiel Solomon, Zalzain Refuah Shalema, Mashgiach of Lakewood, who said that you would have to admit, for all the effort, all the work, all the sforim, all the shiurim that have been given in Shmiras HaLashon, sadly the project has been a failure. Which sounds very shocking indeed. But you remember, and you may know, that the Gemara, the Yerushalmi says, if you live in a generation in which the Beis HaMikdash was not rebuilt, then you're precisely behaving in every respect like the generation that had the Beis HaMikdash destroyed. So the Lashon Hara just seems to carry on. Why? So I wanted to make the following suggestion to the 5,000 ladies, and I'd like to make the following suggestion to you as well. And incidentally, for me, I have to hear it very often too. I think the problem, why we're not able to conquer Lashon Hara, we're not able to kick the habit, is because we're treating the symptoms of the disease, not the disease. The symptoms, not the disease itself. Let me explain to you what I mean. I used to teach in a Beis Yaakov school in Manchester in England. And when I first started teaching there, I was a young, inexperienced teacher who was, sadly, quite full of himself, convinced that I knew all the answers. And I'd been to teacher training college and studied psychology, so I was quite sure I was going to be very successful. Now, at the end of the school year in England, just like in America, there is, of course, the annual examinations, the tests. And then a week or so after that, you have to fill in report cards. So you put in the score, and then the teachers comment about the girl and how well she'd done through the year. The other older and wiser teachers tried to warn me that, you see, you may remember this, there's an art form to writing report cards. You mustn't write exactly what's wrong with the girl or the boy because people get upset. You've got to be meramazit, you've got to make it in the form of a hint. So, if the girl hasn't worked very well during the year, you say, could have tried harder. But what that really means is she did no work the entire year. Sometimes misbehaves in class, causes riots in the class, she's dreadful. But you can't say that. But I believed in telling the parents the truth. And so if the girl misbehaved, I said, always misbehaves. The other teachers tried to stop me, but no, I was convinced. Off went the report cards. A week later, the parents come to the school to meet the teachers to discuss with them their daughter's progress. And because I was a new teacher, I was so pleased with the fact that the line of parents waiting to talk to me seemed to be so much longer than all the other lines waiting to talk to the other teachers. Everybody seemed to want to talk to me. I thought, wow, success. And then the first mum and dad came and sat across the table, and the dad looked at me without smiling, and he stretched across the table until his nose was separated from my nose by about half an inch. And then he said, so why do you hate my daughter so much then? He looked as though he was going to punch me. he was going to punch me, and he wasn't the only one that night. And I remember going back and saying to my late wife, Anna Shalom, I can't understand these parents. How stupid can they be? They want me to lie about their daughters? They don't want me to tell them the truth? This was, of course, before my own children started going to school and coming back with report cards. If they came back with any criticisms whatsoever from any teacher, I realized it was only because the teacher was basically extraordinarily stupid, not to recognize the genius of my children, or perhaps anti-Semitic, or perhaps stupid and anti-Semitic, but there's nothing wrong with my child. The point is, of course, there's only one person, or one type of person you can never speak Lashon Hara about, and that is the person that you're talking to's child or family, somebody they love, somebody they're close to. Because if you love somebody, you don't want to hear Lashon Hara about them because you love them. So what I wanted to say to 5,000 ladies in Yerushalayim, Eretz Kodesh, who are all working on trying to solve the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash caused by Jews fighting with other Jews, a total lack of achdos, was the fact that we don't love each other enough. Because if we love each other enough, there would be no Lashon Hara. You can't speak Lashon Hara about something. My son? Nothing wrong with my son. How dare you? It's because you love somebody. So really we have to work in Ahava Yisrael. That's really the source of the problem. We don't love each other enough. But how do you do that? To be quite honest, just in case you think this is a little bit too religious, a bit too frum, if you're sitting there going, come on, there are so many people out there, it's impossible to love. I am not naive. I know that sometimes people are difficult. Somebody wrote a book called Learning to Live with Difficult People, including yourself. So people are difficult, I know that. But practically, how do you come to love somebody else? And don't forget that we're all family. It's not just he's your son or he's your daughter. There's a little bit of my neshama in you, and a little bit of your neshama in me. Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Lezeh. How do you come to see that? Well, Rabbi Dessler famously answers, you come to love somebody because you gift them. The more you give to somebody, the more you see of yourself in the person. And because we all love ourselves very much, think of the most common words in the vocabulary of a little child. I, me, my, mine. We all love each other. Well, if you give to somebody, if you help somebody succeed, the more you see of yourself in them, well, guess what? You come to love them. And I've got a very good friend called Rabbi Professor Dr. David Gottlieb. He's a wonderful, wonderful Talmud Chacham. He teaches at Or Sameach in Yerushalayim. And we were discussing this once. We were driving in the car together, and he said, I never liked that, Rabbi Dessler. Because if that's true, if you come to love somebody because you see yourself in the other person, because you've invested so much in the other person, then you don't really love the person at all. You love you. But it's not an artificial trick, because the truth is, there is you in the other person already. Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Lezeh. This trick, if you like, only allows you to open your eyes and realize that there is a part of you in that person anyway. He's your brother, he's your sister. So therefore it's easier to come to love them. I once asked my Rav, the Gate said, Rav, what do you do with difficult people? And he gave me a tip, which I think is very useful, and I want to share it with you. Try and feel sorry for them. When you see somebody who doesn't behave well, or even doesn't know how to behave well, and of course it hurts you when they behave badly to you, it helps if you can say to yourself, Nebuch, they don't know how to behave well. And I think you can use another technique. That's I call it the you technique. That is to say, when you see somebody who behaves badly, ask yourself, how would you like to be viewed if you were them? Would you, for example, like people to give you the benefit of the doubt when you're behaving maybe not so well? Would you like, yeah, maybe they're not feeling well, maybe they've got a headache, they've got worries. Would you like people to treat you like that? Well, v'ahavta l'recha kamocha means that you've got to treat them like that as well. And the last piece of practical advice, if you're finding it difficult to love a person who's maybe a little bit unlovable, go to your Rav, go to your Rebbe, and somebody you can speak to in confidence. It's not Lashon Hara, you don't have to mention the name. Tell them that you're struggling with this person. Tell them the problems. And even if you can't find a way to come to love the person, Maybe, just like my Rav gave me that piece of advice, your Rav or your Rebbetzin could give you a piece of advice to see that perhaps the person inside is really a good person. It's just that they got a lot in their life that doesn't allow that good to be quite so evident. But if we come to love each other, then all the badness between Jews disappears. Lashon Hara is a symptom of the problem. The problem is not loving each other enough. And that's what we have to work on.